Hi there, welcome back. I'm so excited to talk about this topic today because it is the one thing that people tell me is like, I've tried everything, and so I just did this. I just went on a GLP-1. I just went and did HRT. And if you are thinking about considering those and it's crossed your app and it comes through on the ads and you're like, well, I've tried everything else. Maybe this is the only thing that's actually going to work for me. This is the video that you want to watch because I'm going to break it down like when it is appropriate to try medication. And perhaps you haven't tried everything, especially if you haven't worked with me. You haven't necessarily put all the pieces in order, in the right order, in order to see the results. So, with that being said, I'm going to break it down. I'm going to say, hey, if you start here, this is what should happen. If you do this, then, try this next. We're going to do those things step by step so you can make an informed decision of like, okay, now I truly have tried everything versus there is something else where I can pull this lever and I will actually see results. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so you can follow along with me and we will jump into it. Funny enough, I actually ran this live earlier today, but my power went out in the beginning, and so I had this lovely intro. Um, but then the recording totally got lost because my power went out and the internet went out, and isn't that life? So I am re-recording this. Hopefully it flows better because I've already done it once. But it is not live. So what I would love for you to do, if you are watching this, you're definitely watching the replay. I would love to hear what has worked for you. So you can shoot me a message. I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook. I will drop a link in here to book a call with me. I would love to talk to you about what you have tried that hasn't worked. And maybe I can break it down for you and help you really understand why it hasn't worked. Maybe you're missing certain pieces. Maybe you were told bad advice and you followed it and it didn't work, right? So, like, let me pull back the veil, let you understand, like, here's what is going on. So, in the description, what you will see is a link to book a call with me. You can send me a message on social media. Would love to hear from you. I am a real person. I do want to actually talk with you. And I'd love to help you understand what makes sense. So, today we are breaking all of these things down because I get asked these questions all the time. Hey, if I try this biohacking tool, will it work for me? Hey, if I try GLP-1s or peptides or supplements, will that work for me? HRT, right? Some of these things will help, and I'll tell you what I've tried. I'll also tell you if I've tried it and it was a waste or if it didn't work for me. And I want you to have a roadmap of like, oh, here's what I do in this case and how to see results. If that makes sense, let's keep going and we will dive into it. So, as a reminder, because this is a series, I have been talking about the background for the last 5 days. We've talked about nutrition, we've talked about exercise, we've talked about how stress makes an impact. So if you haven't heard these and you just started here, go back in the series. There's a playlist so you can find every single one and listen to them as well. They're all meant to be short, just like this one. They're like just a handful of topics without going too deep, without giving the I would say individualized, customized advice that I would give to a client, but this is a little more generic, but it's giving you a really good place to start and be able to ask informed questions. So this is where we're going today. After this, there's two more in the series, so they're coming up and they're also going to be really great ones. So let's start with painting the picture of where you are probably right now. You are probably, if you're watching this, if you're following me, you are probably in your late 30s, maybe you're in your 40s. Perimenopause is a thing, getting older is a thing. Maybe you're going to the doctor and they're like, man, this is just a part of aging. And so you are probably no longer in your 20s where you could just, I don't know, go run for a week and you would have your six pack again. Or maybe that works for your husband, because men are built differently, but it doesn't work for you as a female. And so WTF, like, that is so frustrating that things that used to work are no longer working. There is a reason for that. And so knowing that you've tried things in the past and maybe they haven't worked, or maybe you tried things 10 years ago and they did work, but they're not working now, can be a really big source of frustration. And I know that this is like, just from talking with people, I know this is an issue for so many people. Adding to that is we have the quick fix mentality, right? Everything today is so instant. You get your Amazon package in 2 days. When you order it, it just like arrives. It could be the same day sometimes. We can get our groceries delivered. same day, right to your doorstep. We expect things to be very fast. And we want that for weight loss too. We want to take the magic pill that we show up in the morning and we've shredded 5 pounds. Unfortunately, that's not how it works in the real world, at least with weight loss. Amazon's still a thing. But we hear that, right? When we open up our apps and we scroll our social media feed, you're seeing a lot of different conflicting opinions. Your doctor might be saying things that are different from what I'm saying, right? Like everyone has their opinion. I know from working with clients, I know from my own experience, like that is what I'm sharing. But yeah, it is still an opinion. That being said, I do think that there is a lot of benefit to knowing that you will put in the work and you will get results, like because you're doing the right thing. So that should, at the very least, feel very reassuring for you. So reframing expectations, and I tell this to my clients because my story was that I lost 27 pounds in 3 months. Is that going to be your story? Possibly. If, like me, you didn't have all the things in place, stress was a huge impact for me. Nutrition, eating right, I was like skipping breakfast, sometimes working through lunch, getting really hangry and eating all the things at dinner. Alcohol played a role. Like, if your story looks like mine, yeah, sure. You could probably lose 30 pounds in 3 months. However, what is more realistic, and now after working with like hundreds of women, I actually have reframed my own expectations of what is possible. Typically, I see 5, 10, 15 pounds of weight loss in those first 3 to 4 months, but your body starts to change composition. It might be slower if you've been dieting for years. We actually might start by eating more calories than you have in the last 5 years or whatever. And that can feel really scary because you are afraid that if you eat more, you will gain weight, right? So it all depends on where you're starting and what you've done before. But in those first 3 to 4 months, we're building habits. We are putting all the pieces in place. And so you do see real change in that time. Sometimes, and especially if you have more weight to lose, if you're trying to lose 50, 60 pounds or more, it could take you several years. Most people that I work with tend to fit in that range of they want to lose about 10 to 20, maybe a little over 20 pounds. They also want to put on muscle. They also want to keep their results for life. And so I tell you this in advance, it might take 6 to 12 or a little bit longer months for that full transformation because we cycle through, your body stops responding. We switch strategies to make it work, and it depends on your body. So knowing that in advance, it can be helpful so you don't expect that quick fix, that overnight 1 week started working out and you see results. I also want to kind of bust this myth that it's not calories and it's not really macros. We're not looking at numbers in and numbers out because when we are working in that perimenopause age range, we're also looking at hormones. Stress plays a huge role, and that was truly my story. Potentially, your metabolism has adapted, you've plateaued. Maybe you have nutrient deficiencies that have been kind of happening for years in the background, but they're finally like just really slowing your body down. And so we need to know those things. We need to know what is going on with those things before we can actually give you the right meal plan, before we can actually get you the right exercises that are going to move the needle, go in the right direction. So knowing all this, I have created what I call the 5-tiered approach to lasting fat loss, like something that's going to be sustainable, something that's going to stick around, something that you aren't going to work hard for just to gain all the weight back 6 months later. So I always start with the core four. This is my foundation. That's what my group coaching program covers. It covers nutrition, it covers exercise, covers sleep and rest, and also hydration. Those are really key. And so this could be where a lot of people stop and they only need the core four and they see results, right? That would be the perfect world. However, what I typically see is that there's more at play. And so this is the order in which I target them, and we'll talk through like the different options. But after the core four, if that's not working, there's probably nutrient deficiencies. Are you taking a multivitamin, right? Like, are you covering the gaps, filling in the gaps with nutrients so your body can work like it's supposed to be working? How is stress playing a role? Is it impacting your cortisol levels, which then impact other things down the road? So we really need to target stress. These are part of I would say my signature 4-month program, we talk about all of these, especially more in depth in my one-on-ones, because I can do the lab testing to make sure that those nutrient deficiencies are covered. Beyond those 4 months, that's where we go more in depth with gut health, which not everyone needs, but it could be stalling your particular progress. Is if you have leaky gut, your gut is imbalanced, you have some maybe yeast or bacterial overgrowth, you have parasites. Like those are things that you can't really look at someone and know there are symptoms, but those are things we would want to get a more in-depth understanding of. And lastly, I put hormones. Even though even though most people come to me and they're like, "But my hormones are imbalanced." Hormones are actually the last thing that I will want to target because when you work on all of these things, hormones tend to fall into place by themselves without only having to focus on them because you're covering the foundation better and your hormones can rebalance. Now, it takes time. Again, it's not a quick fix. Your hormones may have taken 10 to 20 years to get out of balance. So it's unrealistic to say, oh, in 4 months they're going to be fixed, right? So it does come in time and it doesn't always need HRT, taking a progesterone supplement or taking estrogen or TRT or whatever to get your hormones in the balance that you need. That should come last after you are working on the foundation. So putting this into a visual, because I'm a visual person, I used to be a teacher and I like to have everything nice and organized. This is the order of how much emphasis you should play on each of these in order to get results. You might only need that core four. That's the diet, the exercise, yeah, diet, exercise, nutrition, and sleep. So, no, diet, exercise, hydration, and sleep. Said nutrition twice. That's what I was trying to catch. So we want to make sure that the core four is absolutely covered. We want to then fill in the gaps. And nutrient deficiencies, make sure stress, cortisol, that is balanced. Then we focus on gut health. Then we focus on hormones. And at the end of it, that's when you get results. You might go from here to here, but putting all the pieces in place. So knowing that, knowing how to target these in order, I want to share my approach with you. I don't change 10 things at once. I have a science background. I kind of think of this as the scientific method of like, here's the main thing we need to focus on, right? Usually that's our habits because those are the things you're making those intentional choices every single day. That's usually where we start and we make those strategic changes. We give your body time to respond and then we layer on something else. So that's how it becomes predictable. That's how it is sustainable because you've practiced things, gotten better at them, and then over time can add more. So don't change too many things at one time. Walking through, and I'm going to put my face down here, walking through the different levels of that pyramid, I want to tell you here's what I know works, here's what could work for you, and here's what may or may not be worth your time. So when we go above the core four, nutrient deficiencies are the next thing to focus on. This is where supplements can play a really important role. And so I want to break down supplements and make it helpful. By the way, in the description, I'm including a cheat sheet for you. It includes links to my favorite multivitamin, my favorite omega-3s that are actually potent enough. Like I break it down so you don't have to like second guess, is this one good enough that I'm taking? I will show you this is the one that I recommend because it is the highest quality and because it's going to cover the amount that you will need in order to remediate those deficiencies. All right. So who should use supplements? Almost everyone should be taking a multivitamin. Typically, women only take it when they're like trying to get pregnant or right postpartum, right? Or during pregnancy. But then we stop and why do we stop? We're not very unlikely we're not getting most of our nutrients from our food. So we need to supplement. A multivitamin is super important. The one I recommend, by the way, is a protein powder and a multivitamin because then it, covers other things too. But that is number one, most people should take. Most people should also take an omega-3. It's good for brain health, it's good for inflammation, and chances are you are not eating enough of the fatty, oily fishes that are going to give you omega-3s just from diet alone. So supplementing is key. And vitamin D. Again, in a perfect world, we'd go outside. We would get it from the sun. But most of us work at desk jobs and you sit in an office and you aren't outside. Or if you are, you're covered in sunblock because you're scared of getting skin cancer. So we don't get enough vitamin D, but that is critical for immunity. So this would be the baseline. I would at least include those in your daily stack. Now, if you're stressed, and that's literally most women I see because I talk to stressed out, busy working moms, magnesium can really help, especially with sleep, especially with stress, adrenal support. And that could be as simple as like a pinch of Celtic sea salt in your lemon water in the morning. That can be an adrenal support, an adrenal cocktail. You can go look up a recipe. Um, it could be up to adaptogens such as ashwagandha, L-theanine, GABA, and so on. It could be working to get more sleep through things like melatonin, if sleep is something that the first two don't support, but sleep is key. Managing stress is key. So there are ways we can layer that on. And then, of course, we personalize it, right? Because some people really need to focus on their thyroid. That was my story, is I had a sluggish thyroid because of years and years of stress actually slowed down and made my hormones like totally out of whack. Hormones are related, so we might need to personalize those as well. We need to focus on gut, right? And how do we do all of these things? You might be wondering. There are lab tests. It could be blood work. It could be something as simple as like taking a small hair sample from the back of your head and understanding where your baseline is so we can fill in the gaps. So we're not just like randomly trying supplements, hoping that it's going to work, but actually having targeted support. So you're not wasting money, you don't have expensive pee, but you actually get results, right? So making sure that that is personalized. Talking about biohacking and talking about like that level of stress, I will also add here that detoxing is important. And I I'll talk through detoxing. Yes, you have a liver, right? You have a liver. It is super, super critical for your liver to detox well. In our world, being in the 21st century and being exposed to all the chemicals around us, chances are your liver isn't working as optimally as it could, especially if you have those nutrient deficiencies. So we just want to make sure our body is working as best as it can to flush out toxins that we're exposed to. That could even be excess estrogen, right? Those could be toxins that build up over time. It could be things from your drinking water. It could be any personal hygiene products that you use, or even just like literally air you're breathing, right? We want our liver to process out the things that are slowing down our body. So how do we do that? And again, I have a link in the cheat sheet below. Quarterly detoxes are helpful. You don't have to do them, but it's going to just optimize your body a little bit more. Dry brushing, which is like taking a dry brush, it's kind of exfoliating, but it helps your lymphatic system drain properly. So we open up detox pathways. We can eliminate things not just from our liver and bowel movements, but eliminate things from our skin as well. Infrared saunas do that through sweating, which are really helpful. And then rebounding, which is like jumping on the little trampoline, that can just help work things out of your like your muscles, your fat, and move it into your bloodstream so your body can then eliminate it. If you were stressed, I would also add on PEMF mats. So a grounding mat, typically there's some red light in there or heat, sometimes even like kinetic movement. And getting that as a grounding can be really helpful to rewire your nervous system, to calm your body down so it feels safe. I should add like acupuncture can be really helpful for that as well. Now, this is the one that my husband has a cold plunge. It sits in our garage and he loves it. I think cold plunges can be really helpful for recovery, especially for athletes, especially when you're working out. It can be really good for longevity. For me, where my thyroid was something that was impacted, I had a sluggish thyroid and I had cold hands and feet. I still do sometimes. Cold plunging doesn't work for me. It actually makes those symptoms worse. So again, these aren't one size fits all. It's where a coach can kind of help you navigate. Well, don't do all of this. Let's focus on this single thing to improve detox capability, to reduce stress, right? You don't need to do all of these expensive things when you're not even eating properly, right? So we go in order, but this is something you could add on as one more layer. I also want to talk about peptides. So when I talk about peptides, I do mean the injectable kind. That's a needle. I know there are peptides that you can like put in drinks and things. Both of those categories are essentially small proteins that optimize what your body is already doing. Now, these are a couple that I've tried. I've tried BPC 157 because I have lower back pain that I'm working through. Um, Tesamorelin is really helpful for fat loss. There's different reasons that you would take different peptides. Okay, so it all depends on your goals. These are things that just help your body optimize what you are already taking care of. But it can help you get results quicker if you are stalled out and you have the right foundation in place. It's not really a peptide, but I would also add to this probiotics can help the right strain, knowing that your gut is not imbalanced, it just needs an extra boost. Probiotics can help, so can fermented foods. But if you're not sure where your gut is, that's where lab testing can really be beneficial because if you're stalled out for weight loss and your gut is imbalanced, it's just going to be kind of more sluggish, more holding you down. And so you're not able to progress because it's like a second brain, right? Your body is just not working as optimally as it could. So this can be something to layer on when we're looking at what else can I do? And then we go to hormone replacement therapy. And I want to pause on this one because a lot of women are being told by whether it's their gynecologist, by it maybe even their primary or a functional medicine provider, they don't necessarily cover anything at the foundation. They're just like, oh yeah, your progesterone's low. We ran some lab tests. We're just going to jump right to giving you progesterone capsules. Or maybe you are post menopause, you've gone through menopause and your estrogen's low and they're like, yep, we're just going to give you estrogen. And so that skips from the foundation and getting the right inputs and having the appropriate exercises and getting sleep, like the foundation. And it jumps right to a prescription that you generally will be taking the rest of your life. And so I think that is not helpful. I'll temper my input on this. I don't think it's helpful to jump right to a prescription, to jump to medication when your foundation isn't there. And I think it's basically putting a Band-Aid on a problem that's not going to get better. And truly, just adding progesterone to someone who is in perimenopause can temporarily alleviate symptoms, but it's not fixing anything in the long term. So, as far as weight loss, I don't see it being a successful long-term strategy. However, it can be helpful when you have built your foundation, when you have addressed nutrition and stress, any nutrient deficiencies, then that's the next layer. Okay. But you have to focus on the right things first. Otherwise, it's not helpful at all. So certain things it can help with if you have hot flashes, if you are going through actual menopause, if you have sleep disruption, mood swings, some of these can be linked to liver detoxification. So if you haven't tried that, then you're not helping yourself by just adding in a prescription, right? So what do you do? I would try to support your detox pathways. That would be those quarterly detoxes that I mentioned, supporting your liver by getting the right nutrients, the B vitamins, the maybe glutathione, things like that, that are nutrients, right? There are herbal supplements such as progesterone support, such as estrogen support. And so I'm including them in my cheat sheet. Remember, that's in the link below. Those things would be helpful for to try for maybe even up to 4 to 6 months. And it will help your body rebalance. It'll help alleviate your symptoms, but then it also gives you time to work on your foundation so it sticks around for the long term. Okay. Before jumping to whether it's a patch, whether it's a capsule, whether it's, something under your skin for months, those are things that I would say are more like a last ditch attempt after things are not working for a while. Okay. Not the first thing you try. And lastly, GLP-1s, because every time I turn on my either social media, I get ads for these, and it was like, try mine, try mine. And I know it's very tempting because this looks like the easiest thing. It's like, oh yeah, just turn my appetite off, the food noise goes away. I just all of a sudden am really healthy and I'm losing weight and it's so effortless. And that's how it's being sold. I think there can be benefits to GLP-1s, especially if you have a lot of weight to lose, especially if you have diabetes, especially if you truly are trying everything else, but weight loss is resistant. But this is not where I would start. Again, this is one of those last ditch attempts of like, you have truly tried everything because GLP-1s, truthfully, are not going to be sustainable long term. You're going to go off them. It takes 2 or 3 weeks for it to clear your bloodstream. And then all of a sudden the food noise comes back because you haven't done the inner work. The cravings come back because you haven't been fueling your body. Okay. Also, I think it can mask underlying issues because there are many risks, and we're starting to see this in documented studies, that if all of a sudden your appetite turns off, you're not eating and you're not eating protein, you're going to lose muscle. And then your body becomes very weak because you're not bringing in enough protein. Your digestive system, the medicine slows down how digestion works, which, if you're not getting enough fiber, is going to lead to chronic constipation, which is like, that sounds awful, right? And then we see nutrient deficiencies because you are truly not getting any nutrients. Then we look at the long term and we see lung issues. We see scurvy even popping up because people aren't having vitamin C for long periods of time. We see bone density concerns where their bones, the calcium is being fully leached out of their bones. Their bones are becoming really weak because they haven't been providing themselves with the right nutrients. So I think there's a lot of side effects to this and long-term side effects. We're going to just see more and more. So what do? We have to have protein intake as a non-negotiable. You're still going to need carbs because that's your energy. Otherwise, your energy is going to crash. And you're still going to need to eat fiber or veggies, some sort of combo there for digestion. The other thing, and I should write this, and the other thing you really need to do is the inner work to address the food noise. Usually that comes from not feeling like you're worthy enough, not feeling like you're good enough, doing enough. And so we have this inner voice of like stress, anxiety, so on. And if we don't work on that, it's just going to all come back as soon as the medication's done. And the medication's expensive. So you want it to be lasting if you're going to take it. Bottom line, summarizing all this, because I know it's so much information, the foundation is where you start. Then we move on to stress. Then we move on to gut and nutrient and getting the right pieces in place. Then we work on hormone support, which kind of falls into place on its own. And lastly, that's where I would put medications into place. This might take years, right? This might take a year or a little longer, but medications aren't the first step. So when you're putting all the right things in place, that's where fat loss is sustainable. It's easy, it's fun, you have better energy, your hormones are actually working with you instead of feeling like something else that you are fighting, right? We don't want it to be just one more thing you have to do. We want this journey to be something that supports your life, supports the people around you. So when you put the oxygen mask on first, then you show up as the best version of yourself. And of course, this is where I can help you. I mentioned this in the beginning. I know that having a custom plan that includes all of these things, your schedule, your stress, your metabolism, your goals, the things you've tried in the past, your labs, your nutrient deficiencies. When you have those things in place, you are going to see results and it's going to be quick, much quicker than when you're trying random things on your own and hoping that it works, right? Pray. So I'm going to encourage you. And again, this link is also in the description below. I would love to hear from you. I would love to see you apply for coaching. If you are even a little bit interested, just want to open the door about like, oh, I don't even know where to start, still apply because we can start that conversation, start to figure out here's actually what's holding you back. Coaching might not be the best thing for you right now. And I will be very honest because I am selective about who I work with. I want this to work for you. So it needs to be mutual, right? We want you to be able to get results. And if it's something so simple as like, dude, you're not drinking enough water, I'm going to tell you, right? Usually it's a little more multifaceted than that. And that's where coaching comes into place because it's hard to put all the pieces together by yourself and hold yourself accountable and keep showing up and know when to make changes. And that's my job. That's what I do for you, making sure that you have all the pieces to see success as quickly as possible. So that is what I do. I will also mention coming up in this series, there are two more parts of this Lunch and Learn. So why fat loss feels harder in your 30s and 40s and what to do about it. And then the masterclass is where we put it all together. It would be helpful if you watch the other ones. But even if you come in totally blank, it's helpful because we're going to break down here's what you should be doing. Here's what you're doing wrong and why it is not working. So this is super helpful, and I really do encourage you to come to it. With that, thanks so much for listening and sticking around. I hope to hear from you, and I will talk to you very soon.